Okay. We are already halfway through 2024, and already we've seen a bunch of TikTok influencers who have migrated their way over to Kick because they don't have to suffer repercussions. Well, today we are covering this TikTok influencer who has yet to transfer over to Kick, but is up to some pretty wild activities. And when I mean wild, I mean they're currently trying to capitalize on a trend where they try to get famous by doing things that are extremely disrespectful and entirely dangerous with absolutely no regard for who gets hurt in the process. This TikToker, who goes by the screen name Wolfie Kahletti, has recently been noticed for doing things like this.
What tacos at the egg roll? Hey!
Okay, so first off, this kind of looks like a harmless act, but only to those who haven't worked in the food industry before. But in case you didn't know, oil and water equals bad. But I'm sure most of us have added a little bit of water to a pan full of grease after we're done cooking and learned a very valuable lesson that day.
Worst thing you could do, throw water on it. Here, throw the water on it, watch what happens.
Okay.
Thanks for the warning. So you can probably predict what happens next after this guy dumps an entire bag of square ice into an industrial fryer. That last clip you just watched was an example of what happens when you put ice in a fryer, because he didn't actually stay around to find out what happened. Unfortunately, he ran away before he could see the outcome of his prank, because he knew that if he were to stay and see the outcome of his extremely nasty prank here, then he would have been met with cops and slapped with charges on charges. We will get to the possible charges he's up against in a second, but first off, why is pranking people and ruining their days, pranking hardworking people and just ruining their entire day, something that is acceptable content right now? Maybe it's the fact that high numbers on a stream or a post can easily mislead its creator into thinking that there's a bunch of opportunities waiting for them. But in reality, everyone's just stopping for a second to see what the hell's going on before they move on with their lives. Kind of like when you see a crazy person on the street.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see.
I blame the social media platforms, alright? They just want clicks and views, and the algorithm gets just as excited from a dislike as it does from a like. A comment is still a comment. For a while now, there's been this content hack that people like Jack Doherty, Neon, and other cringe content creators use to do this type of cringe content and build a platform and just kind of trying to play a numbers game with it. That's right, guys. It's a numbers game. And the game works like this. First, you piss everyone off, but you don't actually break any laws while you do that. Then, they rely heavily on freedom of speech to try to push sometimes mentally ill people over the edge. Then, they hide behind their bodyguard when they actually push someone too far. The irony in this content is that if you're a new creator like Wolfie just trying to find a new niche to create in, then why would you look at Jack's comments and think like, oh yeah, you know what? I want to be hated by everyone too. I just don't get it. Where's the future planning there? Remember how I said this content only kinda works if you don't break any laws? Well, look at how it's going for Johnny Somali. That man got mass media coverage because he actually broke a bunch of laws. People knew he was going to get caught. And there will never be opportunities to make money doing this type of cringe behavior content. You know, besides people sending donations that they truly hope will fund his last video upload. Yeah, the viewers of prank influencers like that, they just want to see the person fail. Just astounds me. Wolfie wakes up in the morning and then consumes a product that is the result of somebody doing their job correctly, finishes his coffee, and then goes, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ruin an entire business full of workers' day just for a few views. Yeah, you can clearly see that this business was slow when he went in there, and it was nighttime, probably close to closing time, so all this guy did was prevent these workers from going home on time to see their families, as well as probably made it so they didn't have a job to go to the next morning, you know, while they had to clean up that mess. Because after an incident like that happens, inspections need to be made, probably going to need an entire new fryer and whatever else the grease destroyed, not to mention the grease flowing everywhere and splashing everywhere, entirely had possibilities of really hurting the employees in that store, which would be a huge lawsuit, not just for food, but now for harm. Have no fear though, because if you're stupid enough to create this content to begin with, then you probably have no idea what kind of repercussions follow in the aftermath. And that's probably why after committing this crime, he ever so politely twists the camera to show his face, probably to make the investigator have such an easy job that he can clock out at noon that day. So, in the US, there's this great little law that prevents you from tampering with other people's food. This law states that tampering or attempted tampering with any consumer product that affects interstate or foreign commerce, or with the labeling of or the container for such product, and here's where he's dead to rights. Tampering must be done with reckless disregard for risk that other person will be placed in danger or death or bodily harm. Alright, so that description might as well be in his video's bio, because that explains to a T exactly what he did. The fines and jail time for this particular offense really depends on what state you're in, but it can range anywhere from a fine all the way up to 20 years of jail time. That's a big risk to take just so you can get told you suck online. But honestly, I really don't think he understood the repercussions here. I'm sure in hindsight, Wolfie is probably pretty regretful for his actions. The video was taken down, but I think this dude's been living under a rock with Patrick for the last 10 years, because if you do anything like this and post proof, 10 minutes later, 100 random people are gonna have this downloaded on their phone and never let you forget this, ever. Like, ever. Wolfie looks like he has enough life experience to be able to see that this is not a good idea, but then can't understand that this is a life-ruining move is proof that maturity just doesn't come with age. At least it's not guaranteed to come with age, because any adult in their right minds, after giving this 15 seconds of thought, would realize that there is no possible way that 15 minutes of fame is worth 20 years in prison. And there's something to be said about his lack of ability to put himself in other people's shoes. Because if he did, then he would never want to be a net negative to the world like he's being right now. But if you thought that this was his intro into the cringe criminal universe, then you would be sorely mistaken. This man really likes to tamper with food.
You guys have a bathroom?
7287.
What can I get for you? On a burrito? I got you.
Yeah, man, so funny. I'm sure that guy who's probably just trying to get home after night shift definitely wanted to get screwed with while just trying to get food he paid for. I just don't think he understands what laws he's breaking and what repercussions are for his actions. Because if literally anybody gets sick at that restaurant that day, they can sue him, and he would be responsible for any damages. And the case would be open and closed, because after committing the crime, the dummy flips his camera and self-snitches. And all for a little bit of juicy TikTok clout. It's funny because he's kind of making the same content that a few other creators have in the past, where they just kind of act confused while they commit the crime, because they know that the workers in that store are not going to risk their job just to stop you. It's kind of like when somebody robs a store and the employees are instructed in that case to just give all the money in the cash register away. Because reality is, if you're dumb enough to do it, then you're most likely stupid enough to get caught. So what's the point of trying to stop you in the act?
You've only got a tiny fine today, no deterrent to you whatsoever. You don't show any real remorse. You don't really care, do you?
The UK laws are weak, simple as. And that's not, the UK laws are weak, simple as, and that's not my fault.
Yeah, well, Wolfie doesn't have that going for him, because in the US, they tend to charge a lot more harshly for the sentences. For the same crime as other creators got a slap on the wrist for, but that's because they were in different countries. But don't worry, there's more. You know, the only thing that would make this slightly less illegal, as if he was like working at that store and working night shift, like stocking the shelves while nobody was in there. But still, he recorded himself and he would have definitely got fired. And that's the thing, people with jobs who need money aren't willing to risk their job for this type of thing. So that settles the fact that he probably doesn't have a job, and if he does, not for long, because the internet is coming after this guy, like seriously coming after this guy. And good luck getting any sort of job in the future. You just recorded yourself and posted yourself tampering with food. You just took away 80% of your job opportunities. And the other 20% of your job opportunities are going to take one look at the videos you've posted and hire the felon instead. And that's pretty much where this guy's at. All of his content is just at other people's expense, and it's so cringe that all he can fathom to do is ruin other people's days for those who actually have to work to put a roof over their head and, go to work the next day. Because Wolfie is sure as hell eating the leftovers of somebody who gets up at 8 o'clock in the morning, shakes his head at Wolfie's sleeping face, swallows his pride, and goes to work. And then Wolfie wakes up at noon and wonders, how can I just default to making somebody's day the worst it can possibly be? Oh wait, this is how.
I'm so sorry for scaring you.
Let them have cake. Oh, who knows?
Since it's so fun to destroy people's property and run, I'm sure he would completely understand if someone ran up to him while recording, stole his phone, started running and smashed it in the process, right? He'd get it. No, most likely he would try to play the victim and then try to get the police involved. Man, this guy is just the biggest coward on TikTok. Ah yes, another jail sentence. Dandy. This man has been living on borrowed time with the way he's been acting up, and if the police catch up to him, or even worse, he might do this to someone who's unhinged, faster, and bigger than him, and would be more than willing to pay him back in birthday bumps. Either way, Wolfie is looking for justice with a magnifying glass, and he is sure to find it, as the things he has done are guaranteed already going to land him in jail, as there is definitely a whole case, an ongoing case against him. And like Johnny Somali, who we've covered in the channel before, he's going to be free right up until the point where he isn't, and he's not going to be able to scream, I'm from America, I'm from America, you can't arrest me.
I'm from America. What are you doing? Okay, Karen, I'm going.
Because you're already in America, buddy, home of the take another step and you're going to get it. And it sounded like I said that like a bad thing, but take a look at Texas. It's a pretty safe state, a place where you can go grocery shopping without the fear of being made into some viral video. Do you see any influencers wilding out in Texas? No? I wonder why.
In April, Coley critically shot 21-year-old Tanner Cook in the stomach as he was picking up food for DoorDash. Cook was recording this prank for his YouTube channel.
Stop.
2 months ago, jury found Coley not guilty of malicious wounding.
Yeah, this goes to show, you never know what the person you're screwing with is capable of doing, or what they were mentally going through at the time, and it looks like the court took this into consideration too, because just 8 months later, the shooter got released. What's shooting him, right? No, of course not. In a day and age where influencers are literally willing to step on your toes, get right up in your face, and wait until you have an outburst, that outburst, although not entirely justified, is completely predictable because as the guy who shot the influencer, how does he know how far the influencer is willing to take this? And why would he be subject to have to find that out? Now, the shift. Looking at his account right now, kind of looks like he may have just slightly came to his senses. He is claiming that the ice and the fryer prank is CGI, which is kind of ironic because the dude is just assuming that everybody on the internet is as stupid as he is. But how could he know that? And it looks like the cops have already started keeping tabs on him because, just like Johnny Somali, he started posting interactions with police, which means they're watching. It's pretty common knowledge that police, when it comes to these type of influencers who just self-snitch in every video, they kind of pull back a little bit and let evidence just stack up because at the end, when they do take you down, the evidence is too damning for you to have any sort of defense case. The general style of these prank influencers is that they do something crazy to get their 15 minutes of fame. They get to experience what the inside of a jail cell looks like before getting released to have zero job opportunity in the future. But I truly hope that it was worth it for him for the sliver of attention he got. Obviously, Wolfie hasn't suffered any repercussions for his actions yet, but Numbers and patterns do not lie, and his time is upon him. He's in a very delicate situation right now because he has the opportunity to basically switch content types and be able to kind of walk away from this while he's ahead. Probably not suffer too much for it, suffer a little bit, but not like full repercussions suffer. Something tells me that if and when he keeps this up, the police are just going to eventually decide they have enough evidence. And like I said in the beginning of the video, you're free until you're not. And all of a sudden, then he's going to want all of his individual rights respected, the ways he didn't respect others. I'll be watching this goofball to see if he has any more tricks up his sleeve, because I love magic, and he might just perform the biggest disappearing trick of all time. So let's hope he comes to his senses soon, because although it's kind of neat to see the downfall of someone, we should never be rooting for it. Anyways, that's enough TikTok for this week. I'm going to go report on something that doesn't require me to open that app. If you enjoyed the video, then hitting that like button would really help me out. And if you subscribed to me, then I feel very honored to be part of your homepage. See you in the next video.